towards the cloud. Jai and okay. I think we're all set. Okay, please accept my Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much for joining us today for the second series, or continuing the title of Exploring the Mercy of Sri Nityananda through Song and Shastra. Sorry, I've just had a message. I'm not sure if that was meant to be for me from Kali Yuga Pavana Prabhu. Oh, I think I have to change the. Everything's okay? Oh, okay. Okay, no worries. Okay. Oh, and then I think I have to, what else do I have to do? Pin this. Okay. Right. So yes, sorry. I was saying, yeah, the second in the series, exploring the mercy of Sri Nityananda through Song and Shastra. And yeah, just before we begin, we would just like to offer some prayers. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Siddhantotpalasaranitya-rasikam Hangsang Vilasatmakam Audaryakya Sudhama Sevakatanam Vishramba Bhakti Pradam Yatya Yukti Vichakshanam Tvakapido Vaishishta Shaktya Sada Vandeham Tripurarinam Kayatim Shri Bhakti Vedantinam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Swami Shri Bhakti Vedanta Prabhupadaya Te Namaha Gurvagyam Shirasi Tritva Shaktya Vesha Swarupine Hare Krishna Mantrena Paschati Prachatarine Vishvacharya Prakaryaya Divya Karunya Murtaye Shri Bhagavata Madhurya Gita Jnana Pradayine Gaura Shri Rupa Siddhanta Saraswati Nishevine Radha Krishna Param Bhoja Bringaya Gurave Namaha Devang Divyatanam Suchanda Vadanam Balarka Cheranchitam Sandrananda Purang Sadeka Varanam Varagya Vidam Buddhim Shri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Sarasvatanam Varam Vande Tang Shubhadham Adeka Sharanam Yashishwaram Shri Dharam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ajanulambita Pujo Kanakavadato Sankirtanaika Pitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishvambaro Dvijavaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanando Sahodito Gaudodaye Pushpavanto Chitro Shando Tamonudho Vandeham Shri Ramakrishna Abhaya Charana Sukho Sukhado Paramanando Sundaro Subala Priyo Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostupe Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Gurudev ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Welcome everybody, Dandavat Pranam to you all. Thank you very much for joining us today. This is the second in the series. We're keeping the same title as before because, as I realized last time from giving these talks, that there's so much that can be said and so much that can be explored on this topic of the mercy of Lord Nityananda. So last time what we did is we mainly used one song in the last series of talks, a song by Srila Narottam Das Thakur, Akrodha Paramananda Nityananda Rai, and we separated that song and studied different verses of it throughout the talks. But I thought this time we'll do things a little bit differently. We'll probably explore a different song each talk. So we've got 4 talks coming up. So last time during the talks, one of the topics that we spoke about was how we owe so much to Lord Nityananda in terms of how much we know about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The 2 main biographies that we have of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are the Chaitanya Bhagavat of Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur and the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And both of those authors received great mercy from Lord Nityananda Prabhu, and then they went on to write these biographies, which, as we know, are now known all over the world. So it really is due to the mercy of Lord Nityananda that the world knows about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what I thought we'd do today is explore a little bit more about how the point where Nityananda Prabhu gave his mercy to Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes this in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Adi Leela, in the 5th chapter, the chapter titled The Glories of Lord Nityananda Balaram. And he describes the event that took place where he had a dream of Lord Nityananda. And consequently, after that dream, Krishnadas Kaviraj left the place where he was, and he went to Vrindavan, where he went on to get the mercy of the Goswamis of Vrindavan and write Chaitanya Charitamrita. So how did that dream come about? So looking at the life of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, there is not a great deal of information about his life. We don't know so much. We know that, I tried to do a bit of research, but as I say, there's not so much known. It said that he was born in West Bengal, in a village called Janmatpur. And he was apparently born in a family of physicians, and his parents passed away when he was quite young, and him and his younger brother Shyamananda Das or Shyamdas were raised by relatives. But we know from the beginning of the Chaitanya Charitamrita that Krishnadas was living with his brother Shyamdas in Janmatpur. And so in the 5th chapter, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he describes about a great devotee of Lord Nityananda who was called Meena Ketana Ramdas. And in that chapter, he just describes something of the glories of Meena Ketana Ramdas. So in other places, like in the Sri Gaura Ganodesh Deepika, it's described that Meena Ketana Ramdas was like an expansion of Lord Nityananda, and he had the potency of Sankarshan. And he was, like I say, a great devotee of Nityananda Prabhu. And he came to the house where Krishnadas and Shyamdas were living, and there was kirtan going on there all the time, Sankirtan, day and night, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes. And Meena Ketana Ramdas had been invited to go there. So when Meena Ketana Ramdas arrived at that place, all the Vaishnavas bowed down at his feet and offered him great respect as a great devotee of Lord Nityananda Prabhu that he was. And then there's a few verses that describe the glories of Meena Ketana Ramdas. For example, it says that when someone saw the eyes of Meena Ketana Ramdas, tears would automatically flow from his own eyes, for a constant shower of tears flowed from the eyes of Meena Ketana Ramdas. Sometimes there were eruptions of ecstasy like kadamba flowers on some parts of his body, and sometimes one limb would be stunned while another would be trembling. Whenever he shouted aloud the name Nityananda, the people around him were filled with great wonder and astonishment. So he had quite a powerful presence. And as we read, that when he arrived there, all of the Vaishnavas, they offered him great respect. But there was one devotee, one pujari, who kind of ignored him, and he didn't really say anything. And Meena Ketana Ramdas, he became angry at that, and he interpreted that as this person being like another Romaharshana Sutta. And as we know from the story of Lord Balaram, that Romaharshana Sutta in the assembly of Vaishnavas, he was sitting on the Vyasasana, and when Lord Balaram entered that assembly, Romaharshana Sutta didn't offer him respect. And we know how the story goes, that Lord Balaram then with a blade of grass then killed Romaharshana Sutta, and his son instead was installed on the Vyasasana. But so Meena Ketana Ramdas could understand that from the behavior of that pujari, the proper respect was not being given to Lord Nityananda. But then a bit later, it said that at the end of that festival, Meena Ketana Ramdas went away, offering his blessings to everyone. And at that time, Krishnadas Kaviraj says, he had some controversy with my brother. And then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami went on to say that, he says, my brother had firm faith in Lord Chaitanya, but only a dim glimmer of faith in Lord Nityananda. Knowing this, Sri Ramdas felt unhappy in his mind. I then rebuked my brother. So we can understand that some offense was caused to Meena Ketana Ramdas by the behavior of Shyamdas, who had firm faith in Lord Chaitanya, but who didn't really have the same faith in Lord Chaitanya. And then Krishnadas Kaviraj, he said to his brother that you can't accept one of these brothers without the other. They are like one body. And Krishnadas gave the analogy that this is like the logic of the half hen logic, that, the story goes that there was a farmer who had a hen that was laying eggs, and thinking that so that he could kind of save money on not feeding the mouth of the hen, that if he chopped the hen in half, he would get the eggs, but without feeding the mouth. But obviously everybody knows this is a stupid idea, because you're not going to then get anything. So so this is what Krishnadas said to his brother. He said that this logic of only accepting one of the brothers is like the logic of accepting half a hen. And then Krishnadas said to his brother that it would be better to be an atheist by slighting both brothers than a hypocrite by believing in one and slighting the other. So Nityananda Ramdas was there and heard this conversation, and then after that it said that Sri Ramdas, he broke his flute in anger and he went away. He left that place. He was disappointed by the behavior of Shamdas, and it says in the verse that at that time my brother fell down. And I was listening to a class recently by my Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivedanta Tripurari Maharaj, and he was said that at that time, when Shamdas caused that offence to Nityananda Ramdas, then Krishnadas said to his brother, he said, you will, what did he say? He said, you will fall down and you will lose everything, and I will not stay here anymore. That's what Krishnadas said to his brother. And so he made up his mind then that he would leave. And then that night, when that happened, then Lord Nityananda appeared in a dream to Krishnadas. And Krishnadas says that Lord Nityananda appeared to him because of my good quality in chastising my brother. So then he's going to go on and he's going to describe this dream. And these are the verses that we're going to go through today and just look at a little bit. But before we do, I thought I would just mention there's that beautiful verse where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, I'll just find it. Where are we? Where he says, Nityananda Mahima Sindhu Ananta Apara Ekakana Sparshi Matra Se Kripa Tanhara. The ocean of Lord Nityananda's glories is infinite and unfathomable. Only by his mercy can I touch even a drop of it. So before Krishnadas Kaviraj describes the dream, he actually he reveals to us as his audience that he's going to reveal something very confidential, and that really it's not really proper to do so. He actually says in a verse that that to disclose something like this, it should be kept as confidential as the Vedas. But the reason why he does speak of it is why he reveals this aspect of his heart, such a confidential thing of having this dream where Lord Nityananda himself appeared to him in a dream. The reason why he's revealing it to us is just to make the mercy of Lord Nityananda known to all. So it's very benevolent and very kind and generous of Krishnadas Kaviraj to reveal this to us. And I think it makes us greatly fortunate to be able to hear something like that. So we shall read the verses of the dream. We'll go through them, and then a couple of them we can talk a little bit more about. So the verses begin from text 181 in the 5th chapter of Adi Leela. Nai hati nikate janmat pura namegram tanha swapne dekadila Nityananda Ram. In the village of Jammatapur, which is near Naihati, Lord Nityananda appeared to me in a dream. So from the start of it, we know that Krishnadas is in Jammatapur, which is the village where he was born. So we can understand it seems as if he's grown up there and he's stayed in that village. Dandavataya ami padinu payete, nija pada padma prabhu dila moramate. I fell at his feet, offering my obeisances. He then placed his own lotus feet upon my head. So it's very, very beautiful. So as we hear, like Krishnadas Kaviraj, he was fully aware of who Lord Nityananda Prabhu is. He understood he is the Supreme Lord. We went into quite a lot of detail in the last series of classes on Nityananda Prabhu's mercy, on who is this personality, that he is the Supreme Lord. He is the first expansion of Krishna. So many things we went into about him. He's Vishnu Tattva. So Krishnadas Kaviraj, he's fully aware of this. So he's seen Lord Nityananda in his dream, and immediately he fell at his feet, offering his obeisances. And then Sri Nityananda Prabhu, he placed his own lotus feet on the head of Krishnadas Kaviraj. So then he says, Utta utta boli mora bale bara bara, utti tanra rupa deki hainu chamatkara. Arise, get up, he told me again and again. Upon rising, I was greatly astonished to see his beauty. So Nityananda Prabhu told Krishnadas after he's offering his Dandavat Pranam to Nityananda Prabhu, then then Nityananda Prabhu told him, arise, get up. He told him that again and again. And then upon rising, I was greatly astonished to see his beauty. So the next verses from verses 184 up to verse 190, these verses are going to describe the beauty of Lord Nityananda as he appeared in the dream. Shyama chikana kanti prakanda sharira sakshat kandarpa yaiche mahamala vira. He had a glossy, blackish complexion, and his tall, strong, heroic stature made him seem like Cupid himself. So these descriptions are extremely beautiful. In the verse, Shyama chikana kanti prakanda sharira, that his body, prakanda sharira, was heavy. Sakshat kandarpa, he was directly like Cupid. And Mahamala means very stout and strong. Mahamala Vira, Vir, most of you are probably familiar with this word. Vira means like Vir means a hero, heroic. So his stature was very strong and stout and like a hero. Suvalita hastapada kamala nayana patavastra shire patavastra paridhana. He had beautifully formed hands, arms, and legs, and eyes like lotus flowers. He wore a silk cloth with a silk turban on his head. Suvarna kundala karne, swarnanga davala, payete nupura baje kante pushpamala. He wore golden earrings on his ears and golden armlets and bangles. He wore tinkling anklets on his feet and a garland of flowers around his neck. Chandana lepitanga tilaka sutama, mata gajajini mata mantara payana. His body was anointed with sandalwood pulp, and he was nicely decorated with tilak. His movements surpassed those of a maddened elephant. So one of the things we discussed last time as well, we talked about this, one of the names of Nityananda Prabhu is Avadut, meaning sometimes that's described or translated as like a transcendental madman, that sometimes he comes across in a crazy way, like it's saying here that his movements surpass those of a maddened elephant. And yeah, we looked into the meaning of the word avadut before, and it generally means one who's not really conscious of the external surroundings. That Nityananda Prabhu was so much absorbed in ecstatic love that to others he sometimes appeared in a crazy way. Koti Chandra Jini Mukha Ujwala Varana Dadimba Bija Samadanta Tambula Charvana. His face was more beautiful than millions upon millions of moons, and his teeth were like pomegranate seeds because of his chewing betel. So we can imagine, sometimes I've seen in, we don't get it so much over here, I mean, to freshen the breath, people often just chew gum in the West, but in India sometimes you see people chewing these betel nuts, and it makes the teeth kind of red. So that's describing here that that Lord Nityananda Prabhu's teeth were like pomegranate seeds because of his chewing betel. So sounds very charming. Preme mata anga dahine vame dole, Krishna Krishna bolia gambhira bola bale. His body moved to and fro, right and left, for he was absorbed in ecstasy. He chanted Krishna Krishna in a deep voice. Ranga yasti haste dole yena mata singha, chari pashe vediache charanete bringa. His red stick moving in his hand, he seemed like a maddened lion. All around the four sides of his feet were bumblebees. Bumblebee is very eager for the nectar of his lotus feet. Parishada gane deki sabagopa veshe, Krishna Krishna kahe sabe saprema aveshe. So now this verse 190, this is going on to describe the associates of Lord Nityananda that also appeared in the dream. So Krishnadas Kaviraj says, his devotees, dressed like cowherd boys, surrounded his feet like so many bees, and also chanted Krishna, Krishna, absorbed in ecstatic love. Shingavangshi bhajaya keha, keha nache gaya, sevaka yogaya tambula chamara dhulaya. Some of them played horns and flutes, and others danced and sang. Some of them offered betel nuts, and others waved chamara fans about him. So this is really nice, this description that Lord Nityananda Prabhu, he didn't appear alone in the dream. He appeared so beautifully, but also with his devotees surrounding him. And those devotees were dressed like cowherd boys. And they were also absorbed in ecstatic love in the same way that Nityananda Prabhu was. And they also chanted Krishna, Krishna, just as Nityananda Prabhu did. It's such a nice description. And I thought what might be nice to do at this point is to just discuss a little bit about the associates of Nityananda Prabhu, because it was something that I'd hoped to touch on in the last talks, but I didn't really have a chance. But I always find it quite amazing, as I mentioned before, that not only when Krishna comes, he doesn't come alone. He always comes with his eternal associates. And in the same way, in Gaura Lila, in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, all their friends, who are great friends of theirs in Vrindavan as cowherd boys, those same cowherd boys came again in Gaura Lila, in a different identity. And as we know, that It's actually explained in this very nice book. I didn't get it out ready, but I was going to bring it. This sacred preface book by Srila Bhaktivedanta Tripurari Swami. He explains that Nityananda Prabhu, along with the help of the Dwadasha Gopals, really spread the movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Dwadasha Gopals, meaning the 12 Gopals or 12 cowherd boys. So they were 12 prominent cowherd boys and very close friends of Krishna and Balaram in Krishna Lila. And they appeared in Gaura Lila. So I thought it might be nice to just go through those Dwadasha Gopals and who they were in Gaura Lila and who they were in Krishna Lila. So I've been reading about them over the last few days, and we won't go into too much detail, but we'll just briefly go through them. So one associate of Nityananda Prabhu was called Sri Abhiram Gopal Thakur, and the name Abhiram, it means that there's no difference with Ram. Abhiram, no difference with Ram. And Lord Nityananda Prabhu, he actually said that in future sober people will realize that there is no difference between him and Abhiram Thakur. And when Nityananda Prabhu was ordered to go and preach in Bengal by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then Abhiram Thakur also went with Lord Nityananda. And it said that Abhiram Thakur in Krishna Lila, he is the cowherd boy called Sridham. And in the Sri Gaura Ganodesh Deepika, Kavi Karnapur, in the verse where it's described that Abhiram Thakur is Sridham, he says that once Abhiram Thakur carried a piece of wood by himself that would normally take 32 people to carry that piece of wood. So we can understand that Abhiram Thakur must have had some great strength, like Lord Balaram himself, perhaps. So Abhiram Thakur, one of the Dwadasha Gopals, he was Sridham in Krishna Lila. Then we have Sundarananda Thakur, and it's said in the Chaitanya Bhagavat of Vrindavan Das Thakur, there is a verse about Sundarananda Thakur, and it says, Prema Rasa Samudra Sundarananda Nama Nityananda Swarupera Parshada Pradhan. Sri Sundarananda was an ocean of divine love. He was one of the principal associates of Lord Nityananda. So Sundarananda Thakur in Krishna Lila, he's the cowherd boy Sudama. One point about him in Gaura Lila, Sundarananda Thakur, it said that he was a lifelong celibate or a Naishtika brahmachari. So those of you who are maybe familiar with Ayurveda know that in itself gives immense power to a person. It's said in Ayurveda that there are 3 pillars of Ayurveda: food, sleep, and brahmacharya. And as we know also, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, he was also known to be a Naishtika brahmachari, and had such great potency, such a powerful, strong mind, such courage that comes from that. So Sundarananda Thakur, he's Sudama. Then we have Dhananjaya Pandit. And it said again in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Dhananjaya Pandita Mahanta Vilakshana Yanhara Hridoye Nityananda Sarvakshana. Sri Dhananjaya Pandit is an exalted devotee of the Lord. Lord Nityananda eternally resides in his heart. And Dhananjaya Pandit, he is the cowherd boy called Vasudam. And then we have Gauridas Pandit, another associate of Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya. And Gauridas Pandit, he is said to be Subal, cowherd boy Subal. Krishnadas Kaviraj, he greatly glorifies Gauridas Pandit in the Chaitanya Charitamrita as an emblem of devotional service. And it said, and he says that Gauridas Pandit had the potency to receive and deliver ecstatic love of God to one and all. It said that Gauridas Pandit, he sacrificed everything for the service of Lord Nityananda. I don't know so much about him in detail, and as I say, we're trying to keep this fairly brief, but I think he sacrificed a lot of like family association and things like that for the service of Lord Nityananda. And it's said that so Gauridas Pandit had 5 brothers, and their names were Damodar, Jagannath, Suryadas, Krishnadas, and Nrsimha Chaitanya. And the elder brother of Gauridas Pandit, who was named Suryadas had 2 daughters, and those 2 daughters were Vasudha and Janava. And as I'm sure you all know, that those 2 daughters married Lord Nityananda Prabhu, so they became the wives of Nityananda Prabhu. So that their father was Suryadas, who was the elder brother of Gauridas Pandit, and Gauridas Pandit in Krishna Lila was Subal Saka. Kijai. So then we have Kamalakara Pipalai, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita says that Kamalakara Pipalai exhibited very uncommon pastimes and had a very uncommon love for the Lord. It's said that Lord Chaitanya told Kamalakara Pipalai to move from his place of residence and to go and serve deities of Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra in Mahesh. And he spent the rest of his life serving those deities. And when he went to Mahesh to accept that service, he took the service over from the priest there, whose name was Dhruvananda. And this priest was getting very elderly, and he was very eager to pass the seva on. So he was very glad that Kamalakara Pipalai went there. And it's also mentioned that Kamalakara Pipalai was present at various sorry, Kali Yugana Pavana Prabhu, I can hear you. I'm not sure why. Sorry, your translation has just is coming. I can hear you now. Yeah, it's coming in. Only just now. I don't know. I'm not sure if something has changed. Oh, I can't hear you now. Okay, I don't know what happened, but sorry about that. So yes, sorry, I was saying, so Kamalakara Pipalai, it's also mentioned that he was present at very different festivals during the Leela of Chaitanya Nitai. For example, he was there at the Panihati Chidadahi Utsava, where Raghunath Das Goswami got the great mercy of Lord Nityananda. It's also mentioned that he was at the festival in Keturi, which was organized by Narottam Das Thakur. And he was also at the festival in Katwa, which honored the disappearance of Gadadhar Das. So Kamalakara Pipalai, in Krishna Lila, he is the cowherd boy called Mahabal. Okay, so that's 5 of the Dwadasha Gopals. Number 6 is known as Udaran Dat Thakur. Hijai. And Udaran Dat Thakur, in Krishna Lila, he is the cowherd boy called Subahu. It's said that both Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya very much relished the cooking of Udaran Dat Thakur. It's said that Lord Nityananda was his very life and soul. And actually in Saptagram, which is where Udaran Dat Thakur lived, Lord Nityananda stayed with him there for many months. So it's such a mercy. But what's quite interesting, and sometimes my Guru Maharaj also speaks about this, is that Udaranda Thakur belonged to a caste of gold merchants called the Suvarna Baniks. And at that time, 500 years ago, they were kind of seen as outcasts. They were looked down on in society in those days. But by the grace of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, by him staying there, as I say, for many months with Udaranda Thakur, then by the grace and the association of Lord Nityananda, that community regained their stature in society. And it's said that Udaranda Thakur, he accompanied Lord Nityananda wherever he went to cook for him, which is very wonderful. And also another very nice point that we also hear from my Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivedanta Tripurari Swami Maharaj, he also has shared with us that Udaranda Thakur was actually the patron saint of the Day family, the family that our Srila Prabhupada was born into. And that I think annually, every year, that they would go to visit the place of Udaranda Thakur. So Srila Prabhupada was very familiar with him. So yeah, Udaranda Thakur, he is the cowherd boy Subahu, and I think his I'm not sure if it's his Avirbhav or Tirobhav Mahotsava, but one of the two is coming up quite soon before the end of the month, and I believe on that day our Guru Maharaj will give class on that day. I think I actually have it written down here. So the disappearance day of Udaranda Thakur will be on the 31st of this month, and our Guru Maharaj, Srila Tripurari Maharaj, will be giving a class on that day. So hopefully you can all tune in for that. So yeah, that's Udaranda Thakur. And then we have Mahesh Pandit. Mahesh Pandit is the cowherd boy called Mahabahu, or also known, I think, as Mahabahu Indraja. So Krishnadas Kaviraj, he describes Mahesh Pandit as a very liberal person who remained forever immersed in relishing ecstatic love of God. And one characteristic of Mahesh Pandit is that he enchanted everyone by his dancing to the sound of the kettle drums. So I don't know what it was like, but it's certainly very enchanting. He was enchanting everyone by his dancing. So Mahesh Pandit was Mahabahu. Then we have Purushottam Das Thakur. And there's a verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita about Purushottam Das Thakur, which says, Navadvipe Purushottam Pandita Mahashaya Nityananda Name Yandra Mahunmadahaya. Purushottam Pandit, who was a resident of Navadvip, would become mad with divine ecstasy as soon as he would hear the name of Lord Nityananda. So Purushottam Das Thakur in Krishna Leela, he is the friend of Krishna and Balaram, who's called Stoka Krishna, the cowherd boy Stoka Krishna. And then the 9th of the Dwadasha Gopals is also sometimes called Purushottam, or also Nagara Purushottam. So Nagara Purushottam, he is the cowherd boy called Dharma. Nagara Purushottam, he was a physician by profession, a Vaidya, and his father was called Sadashiva Kaviraj, and the father of Nagara Purushottam, Sadashiva Kaviraj, he was actually an incarnation of the Gopi Chandravali. And then his father, so the grandfather of Nagara Purushottam, was called Kamsari Sen, and he was an avatar of the Gopi called Ratnavali Gopi, and it said that she eternally serves the divine couple. So, I mean, already it's sounding like an amazing family. But also Nagara Purushottam's son was also a great devotee, and his name was Kanu Thakur. And Lord Nityananda actually called this little boy, he called him Shishu Krishnadas. And Shishu means little boy in Bengali. So he called him Shishu Krishnadas. And when this little boy was 5 years old, he went to Vrindavan with Janava Mata. And the Goswamis in Vrindavan, they called him Kanai Thakur, recognizing that he's a great devotee. And also another, as I say, it sounds like an amazing family. One of Nagara Purushottam's family members, called Madhvacharya, he married Ganga Devi, and Ganga Devi was Lord Nityananda's daughter. So because of that marriage, then their families were very close. So yeah, it's very nice to hear something. So as a cowherd boy, his name was Dham Nagara Purushottam. And then the 10th of the Dwadasha Gopals, we have Parameshwaridas, who was Arjun Saka, the cowherd boy called Arjun, not to be confused with the Pandava Arjun. But it's said that Parameshwaridas, anyone who remembers his name or contemplates his pastimes, achieves love of Krishna very easily. And actually, there's a very nice point about there was a deity that was called Gopinath, who was worshipped by Lord Nityananda. And this deity was then passed on to Parameshwaridas by Janava Mata. Janava passed on this deity of Gopinath, and she instructed Parameshwaridas to set up a preaching center at Antpur in this place. And at that time, 500 years ago in Antpur, there was a lot of like dense forests around that area, and it was actually known as like kind of a place of miscreants. So it was like known that there was some like bad people in that area, but so in that sense, it was like the ideal place for propagating Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Because as we know, and as we discussed before, that there's no these two brothers, they don't discriminate, and actually it's often said that the the more fallen a person is, then the more they qualify for the mercy of Chaitanya Nitai. So Parameshwaridas, he set up a preaching center in that place of Antpur, and Vrindavan Das Thakur writes in the Chaitanya Bhagavat that Parameshwaridas was the life and soul of Lord Nityananda. So he's Arjun Saka. And then number 11 of the Dwadasha Gopals, we have Kaliya Krishnadas, or sometimes called Kala Krishnadas, Kala or Kaliya Krishnadas. And that's not the same Kaliya Krishnadas who accompanied Lord Chaitanya on his tour of South India. That was another Kaliya Krishnadas. So this Kaliya Krishnadas that we're mentioning here is one of the Dwadasha Gopals. He is the Gopal called Lavanga Saka. And then the 12th of the Dwadasha Gopals is Kolavetya Sridhar, who we hear many wonderful pastimes about in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Kolavetya Sridhar is said to be the cowherd boy Kusumasava, and in the Gaura Ganodesh Deepika, it's said that this cowherd boy, Kusumasava, he used to make everyone laugh in Braj. And now he appeared in a Brahmin family and is known as Kolavetya Sridhar. So there's so many nice pastimes about him, such sweet pastimes. I really love to hear them actually, and it's very sweet how we hear that he actually lived as a very poor man. He said that he lived in a hut that had a leaky roof, his clothes were tattered, and and that he used to make, for his business, he used to make things out of banana leaves. So like cups and plates and different things with banana leaves. And he would charge very, very little for them. But we know that when Lord Chaitanya was a little boy, known as Nimai, then little Nimai used to go there and used to try and bargain with him and try to get those items made from banana leaves for much cheaper. And sometimes he would not give him anything at all for those things. In the yeah, there's just, I'm just thinking there's so many nice pastimes. It's said also, I think after Mahaprabhu first went on public Sankirtan, I think to the house of the Chandkazi, I think after that pastime, when Mahaprabhu came back with all his devotees, they stopped at the house of Kolavechi Sridhar. And as I say, he was very poor, and he just had this one logta, this one water pot that he would use for bathing, for drinking, for different things. And it said that Mahaprabhu drank the water from that broken pot, and Kolavechi Sridhar was very embarrassed. But when Lord Chaitanya drank that water, he said it was like the sweetest water that he'd ever had. Oh, and it's so sweet. And in the Mahaprakash Leela, when Mahaprabhu was manifesting these wonderful sights before his devotees and revealing to them who they were and things, he called for Kolavechi Sridhar to come there. And it's said that he displayed such opulence to Kolavechi Sridhar, and that he offered him the 8 mystic siddhis. But Kolavechi Sridhar said no, he doesn't want them. And then Lord Chaitanya offered him liberation, no more birth and death. And Kolavechi Sridhar said, no, I don't want that. He said, no. And he said that if the Lord really wanted to bestow a benediction upon him and give him mercy, then he said, then just let him always be a servant, life after life, of that little Nimai Pandit, providing him with bananas and vegetables. So it's really, really sweet. And Lord Chaitanya actually granted that boon. He revealed to everyone there that he'd given something to Kolavechi Sridhar that is elusive to even the demigods, because he's given him pure devotional service. And yeah, it's very, very sweet, the pastimes of Kolavechi Sridhar. I think there's another pastime where he gave a pumpkin, and Sachima made a kheer, sweet rice, using that pumpkin. So he's known as the 12th Dwadasha Gopal, Kusumasava. So yeah, I just thought it would be nice to go into those pastimes a little bit. Those associates of Lord Chaitanya, because we read in the dream that Lord Nityananda Prabhu was not alone, that his associates were there as well. And then there's just a few more verses we'll just read to finish up. So we read, his devotees dressed like cowherd boys surrounded his feet like so many bees, and also chanted Krishna, Krishna, absorbed in ecstatic love. Some of them played horns and flutes, and others danced and sang. Some of them offered basil nuts, and others waved chamara fans about him. Nityananda Swarupera Dekhiya Vaibhava, Kibarupa Guna Lila Alaukika Sabha. Thus, I saw such opulence in Lord Nityananda Swarup. His wonderful form, qualities, and pastimes are all transcendental. Anande vivala ami kichu nahi jani, tabe hashi prabhu more kahile navani. I was overwhelmed with transcendental ecstasy, not knowing anything else. Then Lord Nityananda smiled and spoke to me as follows. Are are Krishna dasa nakaraha bhaya, vrindavane yaha tanha sarva labhya dhaya. Oh, my dear Krishna Das, do not be afraid. Go to Vrindavan, for there you will attain all things. Eta bali prerila more hatasani diya, antartana koila prabhu nija gana lana. After saying this, He directed me toward Vrindavan by waving his hand. Then he disappeared with his associates. Murchita haya muni padinu bhumite swapna bhanga hoila deki hanache prabhate. I fainted and fell to the ground. My dream broke. And when I regained consciousness, I saw that morning had come. So those are the verses about the dream that Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami had about Lord Nityananda Prabhu, and how Lord Nityananda directed him to go to Vrindavan. And that's what he did. As when he woke up, he said at once he proceeded to go to Vrindavan. And then and when he reached there, he attained the shelter of the great Goswamis of Vrindavan. He attained the shelter of Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatan. He attained the shelter of Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, the refuge of Sri Swarup Damodar, so much. And as we know, then he went on to write this wonderful, wonderful Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And all by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, the whole world now gets to know about Nityananda Prabhu, about the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So thank you very much for your attention. There's a comment in the chat from Sharada. She says, a very small detail, lal also means little, as well as shishu, as you mentioned. Pranams and thanks, Rose. Thank you. So that's very nice. Yeah, lal. We often hear those of you who are familiar with Dinabandhu Prabhu, our Guru Maharaj's godbrother, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, who lives in Vrindavan. He often, when he tells the stories of little Krishna and Nanda and Yashoda, he often says that they call him Lal, oh Lala, a little boy. So yeah, I think that's it for today. I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments or anything to add, please do. Otherwise we can leave it there. Yeah, okay, so I think we'll end it there. But thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for your attention. And yeah, I'll look forward to next week, where we'll sing a different song. I guess this wasn't exactly a song today, it was verses, but obviously the verses can be sung. But I did mention in the last talks, maybe some of you may remember that many years ago, when I was quite a young devotee living in the temple, that I was given this album called Nitai Pran by a devotee singer whose name is Gaurangi. And actually one of the tracks on that album were these verses of the dream. So she'd actually done it as a song on the album, and I always thought it was very, very nice to listen to. So yeah, so it's kind of a song. But yeah, next week we'll do something else, and I look forward to seeing you all then. But thank you very much for joining us. Hare Krishna, everyone. May the mercy of Sri Nityananda Prabhu be with you all. And Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatrubhishcha kripasindhubhya vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Shri Gurudev ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hemati Mohini Devi ki jai. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Haribol.